Hello, this video is about lenses and the different range of lenses available. If you're like me and you've got a new mirrorless camera, this is the Nikon Z6. It's not new because it's the first version of this, and there are three. I think there's the Z6, the Z6 II and the Z6 III now, so there are three variations of this particular mirrorless camera. This is a full frame camera, so if you see the initials FX, that stands for full frame, and the alternative is the camera that I moved from, which was a DSLR, that has a DX image sensor. So the FX and the DX relate to the size of the image sensor. So that's the sort of the sensor in the middle of the sort of lens mount, and that is larger on the FX than it is on the DX. So in addition to the cameras that you can buy lenses that are more suited to each of the different sensor sizes. So on my camera I don't have a native Z mount lens, so this is the Z mount lens. The DSLR camera that I used to have was an F mount camera. So the mount is the join between the camera and the lens. So Z mount lenses are they tend to be manufactured specifically for the Z mount mirrorless cameras. So they are engineered in a slightly different way to the older DSLR lenses, and I can't vouch for the image quality because I haven't got a Z mount lens. It's one of those things that I will pick up eventually, but if you're like me, you've got some existing lenses. So I've got 7 existing lenses here, and I'm going to go through each one of them and see what the do they translate to the full frame FX Z mount body. So I can't put any of these directly onto the camera because this is a Z mount lens and these are F mount. This is a Z mount camera and these are F mount lenses. It's very confusing, isn't it? So you need an adapter, and this is the FTZ adapter, and I put that onto the camera, and then I can put these lenses on. One of the things that you have to be aware of is that these lenses are manufactured for different types of cameras. So they're either manufactured for the crop, the DSLR APS-C crop factor, which is the DX, same as the DX. So that is a 1.5 crop factor. So what does that mean? So really what that means is that when you put a full frame, an FX lens on a full frame camera, there is no crop factor. You get what you see through the viewfinder, and it's a 35mm equivalent sensor size. So out of these lenses, what I've got here are let me see. So I've got 3 lenses that say DX on them. I've got a 35mm 1.8 f1.8. I've got a zoom lens, a 55 to 200 zoom lens, and I also have I think actually those are the only 2 that say DX on them. So I've got these 2 lenses. Now what would happen if I put the 35mm DX lens on my Z mount full frame mirrorless camera? Well, through the viewfinder, I would see what I would take. The photograph would look like what I see through the viewfinder, but you have to apply the crop factor of 1.5 because this is a DX lens, and what that means is that the actual full frame of the image is bigger, is going to be bigger than it would look when I put the 35mm DX lens on the camera, and that's because it's only using part of the image sensor. It's not using the whole of the image sensor, so it looks like it's actually zoomed in. So there is when we talk about the crop factor and this 1.5, it's actually a multiplier. So you times the lens, the focal length of the lens by 1.5. So 35mm times 1.5, and that's the equivalent that you'll see actually in the image size. So that's a prime lens, so 35mm. So it doesn't change. There's no focal length range there. It's just 35mm times 1.5. But this one, because it's a zoom lens, the wide angle is 55mm focal length, and the zoom end is 200mm focal length. So again, you times each of those ends of the range by 1.5. Whatever you would times it by 1.5, whatever focal length you're zoomed into. So if you zoomed into 135, it would be 135 times 1.5. So those are the DX lenses, and we'll have a look at what that means on the camera in a moment. What else do I have? Well, I have these two lenses. So the other thing I'd say, these four lenses have this gold labelling on them, and some of them, I think 3 of them at least, they all have a G in the name. So they all have a G in the name, and the G really means that there isn't an aperture ring around these cameras, so around these lenses. So some of these have manual and automatic, the sort of autofocus switches on them for switching between autofocus and manual. I don't know if they all do. They probably all do actually. Yeah, they all do. This one, in addition, these two actually, in addition, have the ability to switch vibration reduction on or off, as well as the manual and autofocus. So all of these lenses are going to work on this camera, and they're going to all use autofocus. But none of them have an aperture ring that I would use to control the aperture. Aperture is always controlled by the camera. And is there anything else to say? I suppose what I would say is that they I don't know if they all, so this one doesn't have vibration reduction, neither does this one, but these two do. But even though they don't have vibration reduction, the camera body has vibration reduction, so there is a some control of shake inbuilt into the camera that these lenses can take advantage of. These have vibration reduction built into the lens, and it also has it in the camera, so you get that added effect. So this is the lens I bought most recently. It's a 24 to 85 millimeter. The reason I bought this is that I didn't want to spend, I didn't have the budget for the Z mount equivalent lens, which is really quite expensive. So so that's those 4 lenses. Now I've got some other lenses here. These are all f-mount lenses, but these all have the AFS labelling on them. These have the D label on them. So they're all variations of D. So this one is 85 millimeter 1.8 D. This is a 50 millimeter 1.8 D, and this is a 24 millimeter 2.8 D. So in terms of aperture, these are wide angle. These are fast lenses because they have the aperture opens up quite wide, which means they're quite good for low light. I've got 2 of these I've got a 35mm and a 50mm, again where the aperture opens up quite wide to 1.8, so they're good for low light. And these two, the widest aperture of this lens, the zoom lens, that's 55 to 200, is a f4, so that's not going to be great for low light. And this is a 24 to 85, and the widest aperture of this is 3.5. So again, it's not going to be, these two aren't going to perform as well as these other lenses in low light, but they're very capable lenses in you know, normal lighting conditions. So let's go on to the D lenses. Let's take them in focal length order. So they're all prime. These three are prime lenses. They're all, apart from the middle one, they're all fairly, these are two fairly chunky, heavy lenses. So they have an aperture ring, these D lenses, but there is in order to fit them onto the body, there is a switch on these lenses, and I believe there is some sort of motor control for autofocus. But these won't use autofocus on this camera. They're not compatible. So although I can put these lenses on here, because they're these D lenses, have a letter D on them, I don't get any crop using these lenses. So a 24mm will be 24mm full frame, and the 50 and the 85. So I'm going to get the benefit of the image area size being full frame, but I'm not going to get autofocus with those lenses, and I'm not going to be able to use the aperture ring on these either. So effectively the aperture ring is redundant on these lenses for me, because I've had to switch it into a mode where they're not using that aperture ring. They will have an aperture ring, but I don't use the ring to control aperture. I can't use that ring to control aperture on my mirrorless camera body. So I'm going to illustrate what the effect of using these is on this camera by looking at the camera menu, and we're going to look at the equivalent megapixel size of the image that I'm going to get using these lenses. So the full frame megapixel, you know, largest sort of quality setting I can get on this camera is 24 megapixels, but I'm not going to achieve 24 megapixels using some of these lenses because of the crop factor and the fact that they're not designed for the full frame body. So we'll have a look at what that means when we see the camera menus and the options I get. I will just say with lenses that have this DX labelling on them, I am certainly not going to have the option to use the full frame of the image sensor. Okay, so I'm going to fit the FTZ adapter onto my camera. That's the image sensor inside there. It's a square shaped, well, sort of rectangular shaped adapter. Now that's the adapter on there. It does increase the bulk of the camera, unfortunately, but it does allow me to use these lenses without any loss of quality. So the first lens that I'm going to try is going to be a DX lens, and it's a 35mm DX lens. So it's going to take that up, line up the white dots and turn anti-clockwise, and that's now ready. And let's have a look at what we get. Okay, so this is the 35mm G lens I've got on the camera. I'm going to go to menu, and what you immediately notice is the setting for choosing an image area is grayed out. You can see that on the screen, but that's grayed out. I can't try that. If I try it, it says this option is not available. And that's because the camera has automatically switched into DX crop mode. And you can see that if I look at the image size, and I get the option to look at the JPEG or TIFF or the raw image. It doesn't matter which one I choose, the image sizes are going to be the same. The image sizes I get are a large at that number of pixels, and you can also see the megapixel count, 10.3, a medium image size which will give me a megapixel count of 5.8, and a small, which is the lowest megapixel size, 2.6. So you can see that the megapixel size, even with the large image size, is less than 24 megapixels. It's less than half of that. So if you're concerned with megapixels, then you just need to be aware that you're getting a lower resolution image using the because you're not using the whole of the sensor, the whole of the image sensor. You can also see an option for image quality on that screen. This is the first menu, the photo shooting menu. And image quality is really just a file format. So I'm just going to keep it on RAW because that's what I always shoot with. So that's the 35mm lens. Let's now take a look at a different lens. This is the 50mm. Doesn't say DX on it, so we're going to have a look at what does that mean. Okay, so now I've put the 50mm lens on, so I'm just going to turn the camera on. And we're going to look at the menu options with this 50mm. So this doesn't have DX on the lens, it doesn't say DX on it. So what you can see immediately is that now that image area, choose image area, is now available, and it's saying FX. So that means I get these 4 options now for creating a different size image. I can choose the full frame of the sensor, 36 by 24. I could choose to crop it to DX to give 24 by 16, or I could choose one of the other formats, a 1 by 1 or a 16 by 9. So let's have a look at what FX gives me in terms of image size. I'm going to go to RAW again just for comparison, and there you can see that the large is now 24.3 megapixels, the medium is 13.7 megapixels, and the small being 6.1. So I'm getting the full resolution for that size of for this lens. So let's just return and let's see what changing that to DX gives me. So that changing it to DX should be giving me the equivalent of what we saw with the 35mm DX lens. So as you can see, it's 10.3 for the large, 5.8 and 2.6. So effectively I would have the choice now using this lens whether to keep it in full frame or to drop it down to DX if I wanted to. Maybe the reasons for doing that would be to actually kind of zoom in a little bit to the image, even though this is a fixed lens, prime lens. If I wanted to get a bit closer, maybe if it was a picture of a bird or some wildlife that I didn't want to get close to, then maybe that would be a reason for dropping into DX mode. But I have the choice. I can use the full size of the image sensor, or I can choose to crop in. And having a lens that doesn't have DX on it gives me that choice. Now they're going to look at the first of the D lenses. So this D lens, and I'm losing autofocus with this lens. So finally what I've done now is I've put a D lens on there, and we shall have a look at the menu options there. So you can see straight away that choose image area is enabled. So if I go into that, I still see the options for keeping it in full frame mode FX, or I can drop it down to a lower size of image, a DX size, or a 1:1 or a 16:9. So let's have a look at the FX, and go down to image size, go down to raw, and as you can see, even though I'm using an older D lens on the F mount, it is an F mount lens because I'm using the adapter. What I am seeing is full quality, large image, 24.3 megapixels, medium of 13.7, and a small of 6.1. So getting the full use of the image sensor. And I also have the ability to go into a DX crop mode, and if I look at the image size of that, it's exactly the same as putting a DX lens on. So it's 10.3, 5.8 and 2.6, and that will be the same for the other D lenses, so I'm not going to go into showing all of those, but essentially that's the difference between the DX lens, the full frame lens, and the full frame manual lens. So the only thing about the D lenses is that they're not autofocus. It's only manual focus on those lenses. I can't use autofocus. Whereas if I was using an older DSLR camera, I would be able to get the benefit of autofocus. Okay, I hope that was helpful, and I hope that explains things in a way that is helpful to you.